now we're down to the real stuff here, I guess. That's what everybody came here for, right? Yeah, go ahead and read it off. Before you do, just to clarify. Again, I want everybody to, I think you're aware, this is not a public hearing. That's the next meeting. This is strictly a sketch plan review. This is only where the board gets a chance to see what's here, what's presented by the applicant. We don't vote on it, we look at it, we approve, move forward or deny, whatever at that point, but there's no motion for approval at this stage of it. But I'm just going to ask that everybody just be respectful, like I said before, to the person speaking. That's up. Okay?
CEA Fresh Farms, applicant CEA Fresh Farms is requesting concept plan review to construct a greenhouse facility to be located on 140.8 acres on State Road. The proposed facility is a permitted use in the LL Large Lot Zoning District per the Code of Town of Webster.
Jerry, before you do start again, I did say that this is just a sketch plan review. We will open it up. We will let people speak. This is not a meeting where it's open to the public for speaking, but y'all have been at the other meetings, you've got concerns. Let's try and keep it simple and not a whole lot of complaining, all the things we heard. We heard it all already. That's pretty much been exhausted. Let's stick with facts and stick with what needs to happen to make something either work or come up with things why it shouldn't work, whatever your question or answer is, but not just reiterating all the things about I don't want it there, because we can't deal with that part. That's a whole different part of the program, and we can't deal with that. So, okay, just clarify some of that. Jerry, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jerry Goldman. I'm the attorney and agent for CEA Fresh Farms LLC. That's looking to establish greenhouse farms on the 140-acre site on the south side of State Road between County Line Road and Salt Road. A portion of the property is depicted on the site. At the very top is State Road, and we are to the south of it, adjacent to the Penfield town line. At full build-out, we would be talking about the construction of the 7 farms, if you will, depicted. 2 on the top building, 2 on the right in the back, 1 on the left, and then 2 below that. They're approximately 5 to 7 acres each. With us on the presentation tonight, the primary presenter this evening will be Peter Vars from BME Engineering, BME Associates. In addition, with us this evening are Kevin Feit, who is the president of CEA Fresh Farms, as well as Keith Cernick, who is a development consultant for this project. The property is located in the large lot residential district in which agricultural uses are listed as a permitted use under code. Agricultural uses are defined in the town code as, and this is a quote, use of land and buildings in the raising or production of agricultural products, and later makes reference to greenhouse products. This use is considered a farm use by the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. I believe that the town does have a letter from Ag and Markets to that effect. As a farm use, this action is a Type 2 action under SEEKR, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, as agricultural farm management practices, including construction, maintenance, and repair of farm buildings and structures. This is the approval framework that we are going to be working under. As the chairman pointed out, tonight's meeting is a concept or a sketch plan review meeting. It's designed under the town code for us as the applicant to obtain initial comments from the planning board and tonight listen to the public through the courtesy of the chairman in preparation for formal site plan review, which will be scheduled for a public hearing on December 3rd at the Webster Thomas High School. We've made our submission, and in includes all the requirements of the town code for sketch plan review. We've received initial comments already. We've received comments from Monroe County Planning, Monroe County Department of Transportation, and the Town Sewer Department. We expect that we'll be receiving more staff comments in advance of the meeting on December 3rd. And to that extent, we look forward to also receiving the planning board's comments this evening so that we are fully prepared for the presentation on December 3rd. With that introduction, I will turn this over to Peter Vars, who's the president of BME Associates, a project civil engineer, to give a concept overview of the project. We will be available to take questions from the board, and we'll take copious notes of the comments of the public. So Peter, I think you're over my left shoulder. I feel your presence.
So, good evening, board members. As Jerry mentioned, my name is Peter Vars with BME Associates. So what I'm going to do this evening is just to walk you through the concept site plan that's been prepared for the CEA Fresh Farms. As Jerry mentioned, the project is located on 140 acres. The property generally slopes from the southwest corner at the bottom left-hand corner of the drawing up on the screen to the northeast up to the upper right-hand corner. The current land use is a mix of agricultural lands and a wooded area in the southeast corner. A tributary flows south to northeast through the property that separates that wooded area from the farmlands. The development proposed will be a phased development. It will total 7 greenhouses, as Jerry mentioned, with each greenhouse measuring just under 7 acres in size. So the total build out of the greenhouses will be just over 48 acres. The greenhouses will contain all of the nursery propagation and growing spaces. In addition to the greenhouses, or each greenhouse will also be outfitted with an approximately 36,000 square foot support building. That building will house areas for offices, the employee areas, but the processing and packaging areas for the produce. So the total area of those support spaces is just under 7 acres. Finally, there will be approximately 9 acres of pavements, access roads, parking areas to support the operations of the greenhouse farms. So that brings the total development footprint of this project at just over 64 acres of the total 140 acre site. So approximately 45% of the property area. The remaining lands will consist of ponds, stormwater facilities, buffers, and retain natural features. The concept plan has been laid out to comply with all of the bulk lot standards of the zoning district, and there are no variances required based on this site plan preparation. As you can see on the rendering, the greenhouses have been set back rather far from State Road. The west side or left-hand side greenhouses will be almost 900 feet off of State Road. The east side greenhouses, or on the right side, will be almost 200 feet off of State Road. In addition to that setback, along State Road, there will be a landscaped berm buffer proposed. That berm will be as high as 25 feet and planted to provide additional buffering and screening from State Road Point and points north to the greenhouses. The greenhouses, as currently designed, are proposed at a maximum height of 25 feet to the peak roof of the greenhouse structures. Access to the site, the primary access will be off of State Road. The access is approximately 3,800 feet east of Salt Road. It's basically in the center of the site, the gray area driveway that you see there. That will serve the parking areas, the loading, the shipping, and receiving areas. At full build out, the parking provided is at approximately 300 spaces. Though that parking lot will be lit by building mounted lighting, LED dark sky compliant fixtures. There are no light poles proposed with this concept plan. A secondary access is proposed at the west end of the site at the left-hand side. That is provided for two purposes. One was at the request of the fire marshal to provide a secondary means of access into the property, and it will also serve as a perimeter access road around the greenhouse facilities. And that driveway is about 3,000 feet east of State Road. The project site will be served by public water off of State Road. A private sanitary sewer system will be constructed on the site and down State Road and connect to the municipal sewer system on Barrow Hill Drive. And as Jerry mentioned, we have already received preliminary comments from the town sewer department concerning that design. Finally, the site will also include an on-site stormwater management system. It will be a stormwater management plan that will be designed in compliance with the town of Webster standards and the New York State DEC standards. A complete design and engineer's report for this has been prepared in support of the preliminary final site plan that we hope to review with you in 2 weeks, and that is on file with the town. So with that, that sums up our concept plan presentation, and will be available to answer any questions that the board may have.
Anybody, any questions right now?
Yeah, the high pressure water heating tanks are going to be about as high as the building, about 33 feet.
What was that? I'm sorry.
The heating tanks.
Oh,
Yeah, they're going to be as high as the building.
correct. Yes.
Now, does it take the water from the pumping house next to it to the tanks? Is that the way the route it goes? Or?
So what happens is the irrigation pond. So all the rainwater that hits the roofs is collected, okay, off the roofs, and it is stored in the irrigation ponds. From there, water is pumped into those tanks where it's processed and whatnot. And then that's also part of the recirculation process because it is a hydroponic growing system. So as the water is used in the greenhouses, it's recycled, and that's where the pump house and the tank outside are brought into use. Currently, at this time, they are proposing 2 shifts. The first shift, which is the primary shift, would be 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then there will be a secondary shift that will, and we'll have this information at the public hearing, of a reduced workforce that will be from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
One of the benefits of the hours and the shifts is that we do not have cars which are going to be going in and out for employees during peak travel hours, and that's something that the Department of Transportation certainly is interested in. We have no shifts that are during the AM peak or the PM peak.
You mentioned that there was berming on State Road. What about the other areas? Is there any other berming going to be around the whole,
So there's 2 things about that. We'll have graphics with us at the public hearing in 2 weeks. The west side property line is very heavily vegetated now, and actually the topography there also, because that's the high point, and the grading that was provided shows that these greenhouses will sit below that. So the vegetation along that west property line that will be preserved will effectively screen the greenhouses from the west. On the east side, obviously the majority of the east side property line from the south, about 2/3 up, is dominated by the existing wooded area. Along the last third of the portion up is actually what we are doing with that berm, is we will be wrapping it around the corner, so to provide additional screening along the east property line. And one of the things also, based on our review of the existing vegetation, is the landscape plan will be enhanced along that east property line to basically fill in the gaps of what is currently there.
but as you were saying, on the west side, the way the topography is, you won't be able to see
Right.
the buildings?
Correct. What we'll do is we'll bring a cross-section
Okay.
with us to the public hearing on the
Right.
3rd, on a east-west plane. That'll illustrate that very clearly.
Very good. There is an irrigation area on on each of the buildings. What is that for?
Do you want to answer that?
Hi, Kevin Cricht, CEO of CEA Fresh Farms. And your question again?
There's an irrigation area right next to the boiler room and between the boiler room and the storage. What is that for?
Yes, that's where we actually bring the water in from the storage areas outside that Peter went through. And from there, basically, we actually purify the water, and then we actually charge it then with our nutrients and minerals. Then it then transports from there into the grow facility. So there's a series of pumps along with reverse osmosis that purifies the water.
Is there going to be a redundant system? In other words, if one pump fails, the other one to pick up?
There is. We have redundancy built in both on the purification coming in as well as actually we're recharging once the nutrient solution goes through the system. We're actually recharging that again.
Are all the buildings going to be built at one time?
No, we're going to be starting off with the first farm on the west side, and actually the second and third farm on the west side.
Obviously, more than likely, the irrigation water storage ponds will be put in first when you develop the property, or
Yes,
both
Peter.
going to be in? Or?
So the irrigation ponds will be phased construction also based
Okay.
on the phased construction of the farms because the ponds are sized to support a certain number of farms, so they would be phased also.
Is there, around the ponds, are there going to be any protection areas, or what's going to be around the ponds?
As been discussed, likely there will be some type of fencing, but part of it, there's been discussion of that design would be of an agricultural nature. Farm site, it's not going to be like a chain link fence or something like that. It would be something with some aesthetics to it.
Can you talk about the lighting within the greenhouses?
The lighting,
Yes.
so it'll be LED lighting that is utilized within the greenhouses, and then there will be shades employed with the greenhouses also.
Shading is going to be on the sides and on the roof as well to try to contain the light. In addition, as part of the whole growing process, lighting is necessary approximately 18 hours a day, and 6 hours would be essentially dormant. So every effort is going to be made in our design to contain the lighting as much as possible within the site and within the buildings.
Now you mentioned that the rainwater is going to be collected.
That's correct. We're actually going to be recycling, if you will, the water. I mean, the benefit of the overall drainage program that we're talking about is one, because of the fact we have this, we're controlling the existing sheet drainage which comes off of the site, which right now is problematic. So in addition to that, we are really going to be using and reusing, as Kevin pointed out, the water in the process that we have. So it's not going to be a circumstance where we're going to be consuming excess water and having to deal with waste. We are going to be efficient in the utilization of the water.
And of course, we don't run out of rain here.
Unfortunately, we don't.
Now, is there going to be outdoor storage trucks, or how's that going to work?
There is no intent for there to be overnight parking of trucks at the facility. Trucks will come in, be loaded, and depart.
What hours will trucks be coming in and out?
So the truck traffic would be centered around the hours of operation of the facility because obviously the employees need to be there to load. And
So there might be truck traffic around 9 or 10 o'clock at night?
I can't answer that right now because, okay.
Peter, you spoke about buffering to the east.
Mhm.
It sounded like minimal buffering to the west. And so, when you look at the vegetation growing in the trees, there is.
Mike.
There still is, we've got additional residential built on the west side of this building. What, any plans variance, or what can we do for some additional buffering on there?
Yeah, I have no problem. I have no problem looking at additional buffering along the west property line. We can look at that between now and the 3rd.
I think it's something we need to look at.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Is there an anticipated weight of the trucks, and then is that been taken into account for the traffic study?
Yes, the truck trips projected for each farm construction and full build out were calculated and were utilized within the traffic assessment that was done and submitted to the county.
Looking at the main driveway, it comes out houses. I'd rather see the main driveway.
Microphone, please. Can't hear you.
Never can.
It's on, but I don't understand.
Here, Dave, use this one.
Okay, looking at the main drive where it comes out facing several homes, why couldn't you make the main driveway come in where you have the gravel driveway? Make that the main entrance. This way trucks are not going across in front of these homes, in and out. And make where the main driveway is the gravel temporary drive.
So we've located the main access point where it is primarily because it facilitates the phasing of the construction and of the development of the farms, and it actually would minimize the amount of disturbance that's necessary, especially for the loading and the shipping areas. There has been already some initial discussions coming out of the public information meetings about actually relocating that driveway to minimize the conflicts with the properties on the north side. So that was brought to our attention. That is something we're looking into. At the end of the day, though, the access points do have to be approved by the Department of Transportation in Monroe County, and they do have some site distance requirements that we have to meet, and so we have to be sure of that also.
You know, I'd like to see if there's any possibility of making a change. Because I don't want to see trucks at night with their bright lights shining after these houses.
Understood.
In the center of the property, it says there are, I'm sorry. In the center of the property, there's a future proposed central processing parking. What's that area? It's going to be just pavement for now?
Yes, that would be just part of the receiving area now.
Where's the waste and trash gonna go for each of the greenhouses? Is it stored inside or will it be outside?
Now, there are, on the site plans, there are dumpster locations indicated, so there will be a couple of dumpsters that are located on the property.
Are the dumpsters gonna be enclosed?
Yes, they would be, as required by the town of Webster standards.
Anybody? Okay, why don't we do this? Again, like I said, it's a sketch plan review, not a public hearing. We will open it and give everybody an opportunity to speak. All I'm asking, keep it to just a few minutes, 3 minutes, so everybody gets a chance to speak. We keep moving without just a lot of repetition. So if somebody just brings up, I don't like it there, and so on and so forth, don't keep repeating it, okay? So whoever wants to come up, please, just come up and give us
First
your
person
name.
comes up, I'll just offer to say that what we're going to do is we're going to take notes of all the comments from the public. We'll be incorporating what we can in advance of our preliminary meeting next week. We appreciate the comments that we've received from the board this evening already.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, it's all being recorded, so we'll have that. Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the Webster Planning Board and fellow citizens of Webster. Though I'm only 18 years old and a high school senior, what happens to this town is very important to me. My name is Paul Bixler. Right now, Webster stands at the fork of a trail. We can choose to take the path we are currently on and let our town join the rest of New York State's mass departure of people and businesses from the state, or instead, we can choose to take a new path to a brighter future. Members of the Planning Board, you have the opportunity of a lifetime before you. In my life, never before have I seen a business willing to invest $200 million in our town. This is probably a new thing for you as well. I understand that there's some skepticism of this project, but there's also skepticism of every major advancement throughout history. People are skeptical of new innovations in transportation, such as cars and airplanes. And people are skeptical of medical advances, everything from anesthesia to antibiotics. So I understand that there's always skepticism of something new, something innovative. But we shouldn't let skepticism and fear drive us to irrational thinking. 50 years from now, we will be known either as a town that accepted opportunities, or a town that instead decided to go down the path of hardship. While Webster currently enjoys much prosperity, there are pockets of poverty that need to be alleviated. If we do not take steps to prevent our town's demise, we could very well end up as destitute as the inner city sections of downtown Rochester. This farm will create 375 jobs right here in Webster. This project can provide employment for our young people, lift families out of poverty, and provide a number of administrative and other middle-class jobs. The impact that this project has goes far beyond affecting mere numbers. It affects real people and real lives. A vote against this project is a vote for the demise of our town, but a vote for this project is a vote for a new and brighter future. Let us take advantage of this rare opportunity before us, and let's improve this project.
Excuse me, can we have your name?
Yeah, let's just give us your name and address,
please.
Did you get it?
Address 628 Hills Pond Road.
What is it again?
628 Hills Pond Road.
Okay, and your name?
My name is Paul Bixler, B-I-C-K-S-L-E-R.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir.
Evening, everybody. My name is John Tantillo. I'm an attorney on behalf of two groups, Webster, where open space is worth preserving, Inc., and Webster Citizens for Appropriate Land Use. I understand tonight is a concept plan review, so I do appreciate you opening up the floor for public comment, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of the board. I will be brief. I know this is a concept plan review again, but the developer spoke on zoning issues, so I will touch on that just quickly. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the secret process for this project, as well as an issue with an administrative appeal. Initially, my clients object to the holding of this meeting and any meetings on the project pending determination of their previously filed appeal to the zoning board. I learned just prior to tonight's meeting that your attorney has, I don't think that was his name, was that me?
Somebody get shot?
That your attorney has rejected our appeal. This is improper. The appeal is commonplace and no different from any appeal my office files regularly, including in the town of Webster. It's no different than, for instance, the Jackson Road appeal that I recently put in front of the zoning board. I believe that matter was before you guys first, and then was moved to the CEA after we appealed the determination about whether or not it complied with zoning prior to your site plan review. This is no different from that case, and the appeal should proceed before you guys go forward with any other hearings, including this hearing. Because looking at a project like this, prior to determining that it complies with all the relevant zoning requirements, is just really a waste of everyone's time. On the seeker process, I know the developer is suggesting this is a type 2 action under seeker. This is incorrect. Projects which involve the physical alteration of at least 10 acres are considered type 1 actions under 6 NYCRR section 617.4B61. Now I know they're arguing that it's an agricultural use, so it's not bound by seeker, but I'm going to give you guys a written version of my comments after this, and that'll have case law showing that that is not the case. Even if it's an agricultural use, properties with, or projects which disturb more than 10 acres are type 1 actions under seeker. On the zoning, Zoning Code 225.12 states that the intent of the large lot zoning district is to encourage large lot residential development in areas where conditions of the environment, availability of utilities, and surrounding land use patterns dictate that residential densities and the amount of land covered by impervious surfaces remain low. Clearly allowing development as incongruous with surrounding residential uses as this project does not encourage large lot residential development. Further, the extremely large amount of the lot covered with impervious surfaces under the project site plan is directly contrary to the zoning code's mandate that the amount of land covered by impervious surfaces remain low. The project plans to create roughly 65 acres of impervious surfaces. The defining characteristic of this zoning district is low impervious surfaces. Zoning Code 225.73F governs agricultural uses and states customary agricultural operations or farming may be conducted in all zones. The zoning code necessarily requires that the proposed agricultural use be customary. Industrial operations such as the project are certainly not customary, and it cannot have been the intent of the zoning code to allow 60 acres of factory-type buildings a few feet from residential lots. We also object to the lot coverage of the development. I sent 2 letters to the town in advance of this hearing. I believe you guys were CC'd on both, so you should have copies. The second one goes into this issue. The zoning code unequivocally states that agricultural uses have a maximum lot coverage of 20%. The project that's currently proposed would cover almost 40% of the lot. So for these reasons, my clients respectfully request that these issues be tabled pending the determination of our appeal to the zoning board. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Nathan Roth. I live at 1103 County Line Road, so I'd be over on the right side of this picture here. So you didn't want to hear any complaining, you didn't want to hear any of that stuff, so I'm not going to do that, but I want to have a few points that I need to make.
That's fine. That's
The biggest ones being that the concerns that myself and my parents, who live down the street from me, very close to there, have not been addressed adequately, and I believe that that's probably the case for most of the rest of the residents that live nearby in regards to light pollution, in regards to noise pollution, in regards to the effects on our property values, and more importantly, the negative effects on our quality of life for having an industrial facility built in our backyards. So I want to make a point that I'm missing my daughter's birthday dinner to make this point because I want to make sure that she has a good quality of life, and this is not in her best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wish to comment?
Hi, my name is Brenda Schwenzer. I live at 1085 County Line Road. I have 2 questions. I am under the understanding that this property that's going to be utilized was used as a contaminant dump area. And if they are pulling water off this, what is going to happen with this lovely lettuce they're going to produce is my question. If it was contaminated for years and years by dumping of industrial waste, then why is it being utilized for this? Second of all, the quality of life that's going to happen, as this gentleman said, to us in the neighborhood is going to be very much appreciated. And how many of you live in the area where this is going to go on? Because you're going to be the ones voting on this. Do any of you live around there? Probably not. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Smith. I live at 144 South Estate Drive. My partner and I just purchased 26 acres adjoining it. That finger that you can see around in the middle of the site is attached to our property. That is zoned for large lot residential. That was the intent. I'm not really sure what we're going to be able to do there if something like this gets put up next. I would just like to caution the board against all the unknowns that are there. With 9 acres of asphalt, that's a lot of runoff that has to get put somewhere that isn't coming off the roof and it's by nature contaminated. And where is all that water going to go to? I see that there's a creek that's been rerouted there, and dealing with the state, and they obviously B&B is going to tell you that they're going to deal with all the state and the DEC compliance. Nobody knows what that is. So their ability to do what they propose to do may not even be in the cards for them. And they cannot apply for the permits until they own the property. So with all those unknowns, coupled with the traffic study that seems to be flawed from the informational needs, it doesn't really give an accurate depiction of it, along with the trucking hours, it just seems to be that there needs to be a lot more foresight and thought put into something before we even consider it. And one of the major points is that this is their first venture as a business, and there's a tremendous upfront cost of these farms. There's a high failure rate. The DEC issues can hold things up, which we all know costs a lot of money if you're not able to move forward with your project. And the contamination issues, by their own admission, is really, it's not, the scope of it is not fully known yet. And what they have to do with that material isn't fully known yet. And all those things could be a big hit on that front end where you have to come up with something. And we have to make sure as a community that something like that, this big, is going to go into place, that they're going to be able to do what they say they're going to do. And right now, there's a lot of unknowns there. And the last point I'm going to make is that that's a slippery slope. There's a lot of farmers in Webster that are going to be looking to get rid of their property, and we're not allowing a lot of it to be turned into residential, to be developed. And we're leaving ourselves open to Webster's friendly to the CEA farms, and we can get in and we can go buy some farm, and the farmers are going to be likely more than willing to sell the property to them for a gain and a retirement. And I think that that's a slippery slope. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is David Bixler. I live at 628 Hills Pond Road. Many years ago, I began my career at Xerox, my first job out of grad school. And after a few years there, I went to California and came back. And we've lived here now for 19 years. And when I was working at Xerox, that was part of the golden age. And I would love to see that happen again. Webster has not been...
Excuse me just a second. Tip that microphone up a little, because I don't think you can hear you well.
Webster is
there you
not,
go. Thank you.
Webster is not what it was in the golden age, but we don't have to settle for that. This represents something that could turn that around again. When I was at Xerox, it was a fun job. We were doing things that sold all over the world. How many times do you get an opportunity like this? Let's build for the future, okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I wasn't going to speak tonight. I was going to save it for the planning board meeting, but I feel compelled. This is a copy. My name is Chris Provenzano. I'm a lifelong resident in Webster. And everybody, well, folks that know me know that I can speak very well from the hip, from the heart, and on point. But there's some things here that need to be said, and I specifically need to say them to our board, and that's why I wrote it down. So I'm going to be going like this a lot, and I apologize for that. A lot of character for me, but that's the way it's going to be. Mr. Chairman, the board, thank you for giving us, the residents and taxpayers of the town of Webster, an opportunity and a forum to share, provide pertinent information and facts surrounding the pending sale and proposed applicant's industrial project. Specifically now, in the industry, referred to as a grow factory, and you can Google that. The applicant held 3 informational meetings on November 6th, 7th, and 10th to sell their concept and ideas to the town of Webster. Mr. Chairman, you were present at all 3 of those events, and for that, I'm personally grateful. You were able to witness firsthand the applicant intends on constructing and operating a grow factory on a scale and clearly on all fronts as an industrial operation. Your presence made me comfortable in knowing that you were able to see for yourself what's in front of your planning board today. The fact that the applicant wasn't able to answer or address the simplest of questions regarding financing, experience, and with regarding existing facilities that they own and operate, because they don't, management, day-to-day operations, and the impact that this facility will have on the location itself, played out very well for those who wanted to see what this project was all about. The most revealing statements were made by their lead salesman, and unfortunately for them, we all got to see it and hear it. It's not for us to determine how or why the applicant chose this specific property, or why they were led to believe their project was suited or viable on a large lot, residential, agricultural R3 parcel that will play out on its own. It is, however, all of our responsibility to properly vet the project, its intentions, and most importantly, that everyone follows the full and proper process. The process, when done transparently and correctly, will prove out that the applicant made an error in judgment by selecting this location. Why the applicant chose to apply for and present their plan to your board as a C-Corp Type 2 action is again something that is not for us to decide or to waste our time on. From their public meetings alone, you can soundly determine that this project qualifies as a C-Corp Type 1 action. The location, its makeup, designations by New York State Agriculture, the DEC, the Army Corps of Engineers, its many shortcomings based on a site plan, infrastructure leading in and out to operate an industrial facility of this size, again, firmly qualifies this as a Type 1 action. We are here to ensure, assist if you will, you and your board by providing facts and information related to this project, its location, and ultimately proving that this most certainly is not suitable for this factory. There are other viable locations both in and around Webster that are suited for grow factories. Industrial operations looking to prosper under the umbrella of agriculture, a designation that was defined to suit farmings of the past, needs to be addressed. The definition of agriculture and how it is to be used in 2020 must be redefined, just as many other things have evolved over the last 100 years. Projects of industrial magnitude and nature cannot and should not be able to hide under agricultural umbrella. Hydroponics are here and are a valuable resource to sustaining and feeding Americans today for our children and our grandchildren. These facilities, however, are factories, and although they produce food grown from seed, it does not or should not automatically qualify such as agriculture under the current outdated definition of agriculture. We're not going to solve that in this forum. However, you and your board must see and consider all the facts and circumstances surrounding this project. A Type 1 action. The process needs to run its course, and if allowed, you will hear more about that tonight. In closing, we, the citizens of the town of Webster, ask each and every board member to visit a grow factory of this size and magnitude. Oh, wait a minute, you can't, because there isn't one. However, you can easily visit the Intergrow factory located where it belongs, in and on an industrial parcel just off 104. At dusk or dawn, throughout the night, just look up in the sky to the northeast and follow the enormous glow. You'll be able to spot it from miles away. Once you are there, take in the enormity. Multiply that by 7. 110 football fields of glass visible from the moon. Large lot, residential, R3, agriculture. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Does the applicant wish to address any of these, or would you rather just wait till you're...
We appreciate receiving the comments. We'll take them into account and be prepared to address them at the next meeting. In terms of the legal issues, we'll take a look at those as well and be prepared to address them with the town's council and with the neighbors' council as well.
Okay, thank you. That's it for you fellas? All right, that's it, folks, I guess? Oh, yeah, sure. Ken, did you leave your name on the sign-in sheet?
I'll sign it, but I think everybody knows me.
All right.
Yeah, we know you.
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Kenneth Corpus, 755 Mile Line Road, also a member of the Conservation Board. Webster's been a farming town for over 100 years, I guess. So first of all, the lot is not zoned R3, it's zoned large lot, which my understanding is generally used for agricultural and farms. So a couple questions. I don't know, can they answer them while I'm up here, or should I ask them and then go away? Well, I don't know if you can answer them. I was wondering what the salary ranges were for the jobs that are proposed. As well as what are the advantages of growing operations like this. I did a little research. I found out that they yield 10 times the amount of growth that a normal farm would yield. I also did a little investigation and found that over the last 20 years, it's upwards of a wholesale value of about $1 billion in the United States for this type of growing operation. And also, I was just wondering if there are any chemicals that are being used that might impact the groundwater.
You want to hold on that too? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Dorothy Fate, 742 High Tower Way. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about have been addressed already, but I just want to implore the board to specifically consider the fact that your guiding light is our comprehensive plan, and that although our vocabulary has not expanded to include things like hydroponics and farms of this size, that I would say to you that the comprehensive plan addresses what is important to Webster residents, and that we are concerned that that this is it's designed to lessen congestion in the streets, to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, or other dangers. We're to prevent the overcrowding of the land, and I would say that is overcrowding of the land. So this proposed facility does not meet Webster's agricultural zoning, in my opinion. The project covers farmland and buildings and parking lots, thereby crowding the land zoned for traditional farming. It increases congestion to the area with as many as 28 tractor-trailer trips down that rural residential area daily. I would like to see you put forth what Monroe County Transportation has provided as far as a study, and allow us to know exactly who we need to contact about that study and what it involves. The facility would be a source of light pollution with 24-hour LED light sources and 23-foot high glass buildings. It impacts negatively on property values of the homes in the area, ultimately impacting the assessed property values from the town's property tax base then. This facility in any definition is industrial in nature. Webster residents should not be held hostage to outdated definitions currently included in our zoning regulations, such as that I covered that. I would encourage the town to require a full environmental impact statement. There are questions regarding that old toxic dump. How will this company protect the groundwater flow from contamination? How will the retention ponds they use be protected from any possible contamination? What impact will all these buildings in the blacktop areas have on any floodplain areas? And what DEC permits are required, and have those been sought? I'm also against any type of pilot for this project that's payments in lieu of taxes. They didn't work well for in the Irondequoit Mall, and I would be opposed to seeing Webster negotiate anything like that. My concern is that those pilots are taking my taxes out of one pocket and putting them in the other. So I would be opposed to anything like that. Any negotiated payment never equals the services utilized by the entity that was granted that pilot. I'm opposed to granting this industry permission to begin construction of these greenhouses at this particular location. This location would be an irreversible loss of natural resources. I am asking the planning board to follow the spirit of our zoning regulations and of our comprehensive plan and deny building permits for this facility at this location.
You know, there's a whole process for everything that comes in, whether it's a garage that someone puts on or a major shopping plaza. And everything has to go through a certified system in the town. And many times over the years, I've heard, just deny it, don't allow it to happen. Folks, we can't do that. Understand that. I hope you understand that. And I've used the analogy 100 times. Person owns a piece of land, a farmer, mom and pop farm builder, 65 years old, and now they want to sell and move out. Well, you all work at Xerox, Kodak, Bausch & Lomb, all these industries and stuff, and there's pensions and 401ks. This mom and pop on the farm, they didn't have that. That's their property. That becomes their pension ultimately. So they have the right to sell it, and someone has the right to build it. Now, the glitch in some cases is, can that site be used for what is being proposed? And if it meets the requirements, it's very difficult to turn something down. We can't just say, it's a beautiful piece of land, kids fished there, they hunted there, and we want to preserve it. The only way you can do it is buy it. Short of that, we have to work with what the law says. If you were sitting here, you would do no different than what we have to do. I don't know what the whole outcome is at this point, because there were some good questions, need to be addressed. Again, this was informational. But understand, that's how it works. So when you say just deny it, or just turn it down, or preserve it, it takes money to preserve land. So that's where we have to look at it. And that's first and foremost in our head. So hope you appreciate that understanding of it. And I think most of you do. And another thing tonight, you guys have been great. Really appreciate the way you've been. It helps us too, because when you're hearing shouting and screaming and carrying on, that does no one any good whatsoever. So thanks again for that. So that said, anybody else wish to speak, or are we all done? Okay, well, we thank you all very much for coming in, and we'll just see what comes along down the pike here. Thanks again, folks. Appreciate it.